Yes, indeed, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the First Class, Second Place podcast. I'm your host, Jason Enrique, and we got another very special first class guest up in the building today. But before we continue, I want to remind everybody that we are live at Bravery Studios in Garfield, New Jersey. Shout out to Mar Beyond the Glass. And yeah, thank you for tuning in. We really appreciate it. So, ladies and gentlemen, they, ever since I came to Bravery Studios, I remember that Marv has said on plenty of occasions that, yo, bro, you're going to be a legend, you're going to be a legend. And I feel like, you know what, in order to be a legend, you got to surround yourself with legends. And this man is certainly a legend, especially in the space of the history of Bravery Studios. And Marv can attest to this, Lori can attest to this, everybody can attest to this. Ladies and gentlemen, coming all the way from New Jupiter, Cause. What is going on, bro?
What's good, everybody?
What's going on, bro? How you been?
Man, I'm great. Pleasure to be here, man.
Yeah, let me tell you something. I said this before we started, but it's like 100 degrees outside right now in Jersey, or as you call it, New Jupiter. And you are a brave man wearing what you're wearing right now, man. But I personally can't do it. I sweat like a pig. But, you know, kudos to you for pulling off the ensemble, man. But this
I said, I got my rock star pants on.
There you go.
Show out, you know?
Yeah, well, I mean, you gotta live, you gotta fulfill the destiny, you know. But
Facts.
Either way, man, I really appreciate you coming through, man. But yeah, it's just really hot outside right now, man. I don't know what you do to keep cool. I'll just stay drinking water like it's going out of style.
Water,
but,
AC blasting.
Yeah, but staying hot though, like what's really hot is your music. So I've been paying attention to a couple of your discographies here, and we'll get into all of that and so on and so forth. But I want to get into really quick about the upbringing. You know, like what is the beginning of Cause? And so one of the things that I was doing when I found out when I was researching you is that we actually kind of are simpatico in the sense that we felt like we were black sheep from where we were coming up, our upbringing was. You know, like I know that you're originally from Garfield, and then you also spent some time in Fair Lawn as well, and then you kind of felt like you really found your footing as a person and who you're really supposed to be on this world when you were out in the outskirts of Paterson, New Jersey.
Yeah, definitely. My whole family is like pretty much from Garfield. My grandfather came here from Jersey City, but you know, my parents, my grandparents on both sides, they all lived in Garfield. When I was first born, I lived on Jewel Street in Garfield. Shout out to Jewel Street. Shout out to Harrison Ave as well. But I grew up living in Fairlawn with my mom, and, you know, that's where I grew up at. So I definitely felt like a black sheep, a misfit, and as you said, I got introduced to Paterson. A bunch of my boys started moving over there. It's right next door to Fairlawn for the people that don't know. And just meeting people out there, being that I was living in Fairlawn, I started to feel more a sense of camaraderie with people in the Silk City. Shout out to Marv. Shout out to everybody out there in Paterson. Like I said earlier, a lot of people from my young adult life to my adult life, they knew me from being out in Paterson and stuff like that. But at the same time, my blood runs through the city of Garfield as well. That's where all my family came from. And then, you know, in between that, you know, growing up in Fairlawn, all of that is where some of the New Jupiter concept came from. You know, growing up around different things from lower class to middle class, all different kinds of people. So that's really where a lot of the New Jupiter idea came to me from.
I kind of like that because there used to be a time, especially during the Wu-Tang days, where it was known as New Jerusalem.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a big thing back in the early 90s, and it hasn't really been anything like that since. And so you bringing something fresh to the table and calling it New Jupiter. And I like the idea because I don't know if this is your way of thinking. Maybe it's a little parallel thinking, but I'm thinking, you know, Jupiter is the biggest planet in the solar system.
Right.
So Jersey's just as big as anybody else out there. And we got the style, we got the people, we got the gravitas to prove it. It's just all about, you know, listening and paying attention.
Oh, man, I love that. And that made me think of a line I have in the song. Here's an exclusive right now, but I got a song coming out called On Top of the World. And I have a line that goes with what you just said. It said, the largest planet by far, change your mood ring, rush turn to dust like New Jupe's rings.
Hey.
And the New Jupiter concept, it could get kind of abstract, but I'm glad that you caught that the foundation of it is a slang for New Jersey, because sometimes people don't know what the hell I'm talking about, where for me, I don't think it's that hard. Even when you listen to Desensitized, you hear Rube saying,
Yeah, shout out to Big Rube, by the way,
Rube.
Dungeon Family.
Shout out Dungeon Family. And he says from the AT aliens to the Martians and New Jupiter. And I wanted to share that synergy, and also just to have a man that was on the classic album AT Aliens and, you know, on all Dungeon Family stuff.
Yeah,
but,
DF Express, the whole nine.
And for him to be on that and show love and show the synergy between the AT Aliens and New Jupiter is just fucking amazing.
That kind of like solidifies it. You know, you got this legendary hip hop artist who has been around the block, who's actually has an imprint in the game, and he basically it's like coming out of his mouth that kind of solidifies it.
Yeah, and I wanted him to say that in the song. That's one thing that when he did his shout outs and everything, I asked him if he could say, and it came out so perfectly. I think that's why I had him to continue talking over the choruses, because it was so fucking epic. Like you said, it's like iconic. And a lot of my projects and songs, I have OGs that co-sign me, and I'm blessed and grateful to have people that paved the way for people like me to come into the game. And, you know, Big Rube, not only is he so legendary, but for him to still be, you know, a lot of younger people, they know him from doing songs with Future. You know, he was on Offset's album, and, you know, Denzel Curry, so many current artists.
Shout out to Denzel.
The internet, there's so many people that still to this day, they feature Rube on their stuff because, you know, his verses are just so amazing, and he's such a brilliant person. But like you said, for him to put that stamp on it is like, it's just a blessing.
Right. Now, I want to go back to the whole thing about the Black Sheep, the Misfits, the whole nine and everything. So I kind of want to get into a little bit of that, because that's exactly how I felt at one point in my life. You know, I mentioned before on this podcast and another podcast before that, you know, I was born and raised here in Jersey, but I did happen to spend a good chunk of my teenage years down in Florida. And then when I graduated high school, I came back up to Jersey. I came back home. And during that time, though, it was never my idea to go down there in the first place. You know, I was a minor. It was, you know, I had to go. It was not my choice. And but like, I feel like I was completely lost. Like I felt like I stuck out like a sore thumb. I felt like I didn't coexist with any of these people, and I just felt so awkward, and I had trouble finding my tribe, so to speak. And you know, it's funny because I feel like nowadays, even in my advanced age of 38, I still kind of go through that, and it's me trying to get over that trauma that I realized as a kid, I experienced as a kid, I should say, and it kind of like it kind of sticks with you as you go along in your older years. But I want to stick with you though, because what was it about you growing up that led you to go to Patterson, where you actually found your tribe? But what was it about you feeling like the black sheep and being a misfit for where you were in Garfield and in Fairlawn at the time?
Well, I would say more in Fairlawn, because that's where I primarily lived with my mom. Okay. That's where I grew up at. But I just was always in Garfield because my whole family's out here. My dad, my grandparents, cousins.
So what was it about Fairlawn that made you feel like you were like a black sheep?
I think it was a couple things. And sometimes I wonder if I was somewhere where I felt more like I fit in, if it still would have been like that early on. Because at first I was very like kind of shy to myself. I would say maybe like socially awkward in some ways. So there's that.
That surprises me.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't notice it now, music. And I think music is really, hip-hop and music in general is really what made me feel like I found my tribe from people from everywhere. But I feel like I'm already starting off with that. You know, I'm not like, growing up, I wasn't like the toughest kid. I wasn't the type of kid I'm raised by my mom too, so when shit would happen, I'm like conflicts or like bullying and stuff, I'm like, damn, what the fuck going on? Like I wasn't, you know, I didn't know what to do in them situations at first, and I had to learn how to like poke my chest out more and stand up for myself. But I'm already starting off with that. And then I just think that, you know, now hip hop is everywhere, but growing up, I'm born in 1990, so it was still a point where certain communities was looking at it like, man, that's not the shit we do.
Yeah.
And I just felt, you know, different, where it would be something as simple as a kid of just wearing jewelry. Like my family, a lot of my family, even my grandfather, he'll be decked out with the ring, the bracelet, the chains. But when I was going to school, the school I was going to, kids weren't like that. And they were like, yo, what you doing? You trying to be a gangster? Like, it was all kind of like judgment. And, you know, some things I look back as a kid, I tried to reshape things in a positive way, because when you're a kid, you're more sensitive, and even being an empathic person, I was even more sensitive. So sometimes I look back and I'm like, was I feeling things very like more deeply? Was it really the way that I remember it being?
Right.
There's a lot of this dynamic to it, but long story short, I definitely felt like the black sheep when I was in high school. I'm like, I can't wait to get out of here. I had my shorty I was dealing with at the time, but that was about it. I didn't feel accepted like that. And so I think a lot of those things came to where now you see me in my late teens out in Patterson, because I'm like, okay, well, these kids, they not going to judge me for this shit. We similar. You feel me? We growing up single, a single parent homes, low income, not much money like that. And we're into the same thing. So that's when I started to feel more like I was finding people to fit in with and stuff like that.
Yeah, and you know, I really like, what I love about that is one of the things that kind of bothers me, and it's bothered me ever since I was young, really, really young, where it didn't matter where you came from. Just because you come from a different culture, or you come from a different area, or this or that, whatever the case may be, that just because you don't fit that criteria per se, that you feel like you don't belong, you know, or people
Right.
don't accept you into their circle. And I feel like that's part of the reason why you know, especially back then when I was younger, how I felt like I was not accepted. I felt like I was black sheep, even within my own family, you know, like, because I was much different than what they were. Like, a lot of them were just into like basic 9 to 5 stuff, you know, that just trying to do things that they want to do. But I feel like, long story short, I feel like there's very few in my family, both sides of my family, my mother and my father, that are in the arts, you know. Like, I can only name one other relative of mine that's actually in the arts as far as like acting. We don't have any other musicians. We don't have any artists. We don't have any dancers. Everybody's just kind of like you know, a regular person, you know,
Right.
like kind of like stuck in the matrix. So I feel like me being one of those very few creatives in my family, they weren't able to understand where I was coming from, you know,
Right.
because I don't know if you knew this, and I've mentioned this before, that I did music way back in the day, like in the early 2000s, and
Okay.
it just never went anywhere. And I was just like, all right, bye bye. That's a chapter in my life that's closed, and we're never gonna, you know, go back to that again. But I had to find something else, and ultimately, podcasting was what it was. But so you find your tribe. Essentially, you're in Patterson now. Did your family, mainly your mom, have any trepidation about you going and hanging around and those kind of people in those areas? Because Patterson does have its reputation, and maybe she wasn't fully aware, or maybe she knew what was the deal. But what was the thing like there? Like, were there people that were kind of concerned about you not being close knit with the family and everybody else, because you already said to yourself you were feeling like a black sheep, you were feeling like a misfit, so you had to
Right.
go elsewhere? Did that cause any other trepidation with anybody else in your family?
Not as far as that. My mom is the type, she always just told me, like, be careful. I think even before I was out anywhere, my mom was already, like, just leery of me growing up. Is he smoking bogeys? Is he doing this? Is he doing that? But, you know, my mom, my grandma, they always just tell me, like, be safe. I was kind of raised in a family where, and I think this is what made me feel so harshly about not feeling accepted growing up, because my family is kind of like what you said. It don't matter what you are, where you from, everybody's a person, and everybody gets treated like a person. You go off with how they are. Some people, they judge, oh, this person's from the hood, they're low lives or something, because they didn't grow up in that environment. So they have that type of outlook where they wouldn't even go to a place like that. And then you have other, you know, more of us that didn't grow up with money like that. We might look at the rich people some type of way, especially as kids, like, man, they don't go through shit. And, you know, people judge each other, but my family, we always were the type, you gotta judge somebody off their personality, how they are. So it was never like a lot of judgment like other families might have had.
Because I had to deal with that judgment myself, but
Okay.
continue.
It was just more like you know, just in general, no matter where I was at, my mom was gonna make sure I was good. And there was times growing up where even when I was just 12 years old, my mom might be a little harsh, just trying to, maybe even a little paranoid, just hoping that I didn't get into things that maybe other people did.
Yeah.
And I think my mom trusted me, especially as I got older. She seen like, okay, he's into his music. Because I could have gotten into all type of things if I didn't have my head on straight. If my moms didn't raise me right, I could have got into all kind of things, from trapping to gangs to anything.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody could get caught up in it, but I was always like, man, I know everybody dabbles in a little bit of this and that, but I don't want to get in trouble because I always, since I was 8 years old, I rapped.
Yeah.
So I'm like, man, if I get locked up, I don't want to jeopardize my music career. And I was always unique where I never wanted to do things that wasn't 1,000% into. So I always loved music. I never gave a fuck about selling drugs. Like, yeah, I want to make money, but I don't really want to get into this whole lifestyle. And like I said, one, fuck up my music moves, and two, now I'm in a whole nother life where I don't even really give a fuck about that. It's just about making money. So I always just did what I wanted to do. But overall, man, my mom's was always cool. My pops was always cool. Like I said, they always the type that they just like, we got to judge each situation and person off what it is. So I never really had like judgmental parents like that. Or, when it came to my family, I did have a big period growing up where, and in a lot of our families, this is a big deal to not be coming to holidays for a while and family situations. That's where more I think things came with my mom, where she was like, I think she understood that the way I was feeling, but I think it was like, sometimes it's the way it looks. Like, damn, your grandfather said something or your aunt said something, why you don't come to nothing?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that upset her for a while. But after a while, I started to realize, like, damn, you know what? Maybe I don't gotta go to everything, but I gotta come to some of these things. It's the right thing to do. I gotta show love to family. And I think I felt more of a black sheep socially than with my family. It's just that I think there was an energy for a while with my family, not necessarily my immediate family, but just overall, where I was like, yeah, I just want to do my own thing right now.
Mm-hmm. And how is the family now, seeing that you've been able to thrive because you found your music and your art and your purpose and so on and so forth? How receptive are they to that now?
Yeah, it's amazing, man. And I relate to you where, my family is the same way. It's like, I don't even know if maybe if we weren't the generation we are, maybe we wouldn't even be able to do the things that we're doing. Because I know my mom and my aunts, they had other interests. There was people in my family that was interested in being entrepreneurs, and my mom used to make clothes for a while and sell different things. And there's people that wanted to sing or dance, and it was just like, my grandparents, that wasn't going. My grandfather, he's like, you gotta work. You all of these things, working is the safe way to go. You gotta make a living for yourself. You gotta make money. So like I said, I feel like me coming in this generation was more where I had a little bit more of that safety net and comfort to be like, look, I want to do music. This is what I want to do. But to answer your question, my family shows me so much love, and even people, there would be people, like I grew up more with my mom, and now, I'm grateful to be closer with my pops than I felt when I was a kid. But I have people hit me up from my dad's side that I haven't seen maybe since I was like a child, and they're like, yo, you're breaking a lot of the negative cycles from this family, because not only do I do music, but they see me as a positive person, and they see me as a positive person through my music. So I think a lot of people are just in my family are just, not only do they see me doing something positive, but they see me moving with a positive mind state and inspiring people and just connecting on positive platforms like this. So I'm grateful to be getting those compliments to where, you know, instead of, like I said, the old school, like, damn, you know, that's not a sure path. And of course you're gonna hear that, but I've crossed over to hear a lot more of the positive things and how I'm making a positive change and being a positive person in the family and stuff.
When did you realize that music, specifically rapping, being an MC, was your actual art to do? Because for me, I had to go through different avenues. Like, I wanted to do music at one point. I was trying to get in the radio business. I was trying to do this. I was trying to do that. And ultimately, podcasting is my thing. You know, I've done some acting here and there, but my number one art is always going to be podcasting. So for you, how did you find out that music was ultimately your thing, the one that you're going to be known for the rest of your life?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I always tell people the first time I wrote a rap was for school
Mm-hmm.
because I was in third grade and they had a list of different things that you could do. And I'm like, man, I don't want to do none of this stuff.
Mm.
And it said rap song, probably because they didn't want to hear kids singing off key. So they like, we rather you rap. And I'm like, yo, you know what? This seemed like the easiest thing here. And I wrote a verse and it was really good. Like, mind you, I wasn't even super into music yet. I used to draw and stuff. My first thought before I was, you know, in third grade and this happened, I always thought I was gonna be like a cartoonist. I was more into like drawing and stuff. And without even being super into music, I'm putting like syllables together like a real MC, like rhyming stuff that's not normal to rhyme. And I'm like, yo, all the kids are bigging me up. That's one thing where I did see like some type of positivity, and maybe that's what I liked. Maybe I even liked just having some positive light and attention shine on me. But I just really liked it, man. You know, I just stayed with it, and I used to, you know, just make up raps in my head to like make my friends laugh, or like I'll be cracking on one of my boys and just teasing them and stuff at like 8 years old. And when I got to 12, that's when I started really writing verses, and I just stayed stuck with it. I guess I never thought much about it. It was just something that I just liked doing. And I just became immersed in studying music, studying hip hop, learning the classics. And it was just something about it that I related to so much that, like I said, I was a kid starting and I just never let it go.
Who would you say was like the biggest inspiration behind that? Because you were saying you were studying all these classic albums
Yeah.
and so on, but which one would you say had the biggest impact on you, or a couple had a big impact?
Definitely the biggest influence I had growing up was from Kanye.
Okay.
Like when College Dropout came out, it was around my birthday, February 2003, I believe. So
It was 2003. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was turning 13 and I got the album and I was just like blown away, like wow. Like obviously I was already rapping and I was already doing my thing, but you know, 13 is so young that
Yeah.
you know, when he came out, and then I'm like, damn, every album is good. Every time I thought I was gonna fall off with him, he just kept inspiring me.
Right. And it's funny how you mentioned Kanye, because he came out at a time when everybody was pretty much doing the same shit. Like everybody was, in the trap, selling drugs, street shit.
Yeah.
Basically, yeah. I actually remember Ron Browse actually said in a roundtable of producers that street dudes don't respect that album. He was talking about Late Registration.
Oh wow.
Yeah, but that's around the time where he was doing something different compared to everybody else, and it worked. Like he wasn't your typical MC at the time that was talking about the usual same street shit. This was different, but he was still able to, cross over into that realm as well. He was still rubbing shoulders with some of these people that you probably don't want to, mess around with. But
And he's coming from Chicago, where he might have been a kid that tried to go to college and and maybe he was more artsy.
Yeah.
But Chicago is gang infested, so he still was growing up around it.
Right, and it's funny you mentioned that because that you could make the argument that he was definitely a black sheep. He was a misfit. He didn't fit in, and I think that's what resonated with you into having Kanye being your biggest inspiration at the time.
Yeah, I think sometimes when you find an artistic lane, a creative way to express that maybe you might not even have a place socially yet to express those things. But when you become an artist, people are like, they're trying to dissect your lyrics. Even as a kid, they might be like, yo, he said this and that. People want to hear from you, and it creates an avenue for you to get out things that maybe as a black sheep, especially as a kid, that you might not be able to get out or express, or you might have more confidence to just be yourself. Somebody like Kanye, by the time he came out, you're like, man, this, music is perfect for him. He's coming out, he's getting you might not even think he ever had like any issue with that, but I'm sure most artists go through that period growing up of being a black sheep and you know standing out from others, and now you're like, okay, I stand out, but now I'm embracing it, I'm unique, so now I could say like, yeah, I feel like an alien. What? I'm from New Jupiter. You say that without music, like, what the fuck? What the fuck is that? But when you have this creative lane, people are like, oh shit, I understand, and stuff like that. And I think Kanye, to put a pin in that, I just think his music was so dope, and a lot of people, might not remember how much he connected different sides, like you said, from the street to the artistic side,
Right.
from the underground and the independent rap to the mainstream. He was connecting, like he said, I take what he said, I take Kweli, put him on some.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about, but
he
I don't
said
know.
whether you
Yeah.
call him Kweli or Quayle, I put him on songs with Jay-Z. I'm the
There you
Gap
go.
like Banana Republic and Old Navy.
That's what it is. Yep, you got it.
And that's what I related to, because I'm like, yo, I listen to everything.
Mm-hmm.
I like Doom and I like Jay-Z.
Yeah.
I like Outkast. I like the Fugees. I like a lot of alternative stuff, quote unquote. But at the same time, it's like I like shit from Ross. I like anything that's dope. I never wanted to put myself in a space where I can't just listen to anything. So I feel like Kanye, he connected that to where he's like, yo, fuck all these boxes. If I want to do a song with Dilated Peoples and then turn around and do something with Nas and Jay-Z and all these bigger artists, I'm just going to work with whoever I want to. And that's something that I related to, and still to this day, means a lot to me.
Yeah. Now, I think this is the first time that I ever met you in person, when we actually had an event here a couple of months ago in Bravery on February. It was Mar's birthday. And there was a whole big celebration. There was a couple of artists that were performing. We had a comedian, shout out to Alana J. We had a poet, shout out to Starborn. You were one of those people that were performing. Now, what made you stuck out more than anybody else is that when you were performing, you felt like you were in your own universe. Everybody was either listening to you or kind of doing their thing, but you can give a fuck less. Like, you were just in your own space. And I've rarely seen people do a performance not just on stage, but going all over the place, letting people know of your presence without missing a beat. So that draws confidence. So it's funny how you talk about how, you felt like you were in a place where you didn't belong and you felt like an outcast and so on and so forth, but yet you took the time through your craft and everything to gain the confidence that you have right now. And it spills over in your performances, in your music videos, wherever the case may be. I mean, you just ooze with confidence as this goes. So I could just imagine, like, that must have taken you a long time to develop it. And who knows, maybe just from a vulnerability standpoint, that's just like your sword and your shield, but every now and then, just like you're human, you may have little social anxiety moments.
Right, definitely. I think it did take me a while, because like I said, growing up, I was more like introverted, and I was more like a studio dude. I love just crafting songs. I think I started performing around like 20 years old, and I was like, damn, man. It was a producer I was working with. He's like, yo, you got to start performing. And I'm like, damn, even like videos, these are things that at that time I never thought of, because I was so to myself. And I think a lot of artists start like that. Like I said, it's an outlet to channel things. But as I started, if you want to rap, you got to perform. You got to shoot videos. You got to do certain things. So I don't think I was ever a natural performer, which now people would probably never think of me, coming up being shy or anything, because it's the total opposite.
Right.
But I'm like, all right, I got to do this, and everything that I do, especially with something I love, I want to be great at it. I want to be the best I could be. So as I start doing shows all the time, of course, I start learning the type of performer I am, how I want to be. And I just have fun with it, man. At that event, I think I went on soon after this band. And, a band, like I said, I said this when I was going on. I'm like, they could just sit there and play. They got instruments. The guy could sit there and sing, and everybody just enjoys it. But I'm like, I'm on some rap shit. I might be alternative, but there's still some rap
Yeah.
shit. I might be conscious, but this is hip hop. I want people up. I want people moving.
You're an MC, move the crowd. You're a master of
Exactly.
ceremonies. You're staying within the culture of what it means, And you don't strike me as a person that's doing this to get checked.
Right. I do it for the love. And, right now I shouldn't say right now. I've been this whole time working towards doing what I love as a living. So of course I think that should be the goal, but not the sole goal is never about bread. If you get into music for the bread, you're not gonna be a good artist. That's not what an artist is.
That's exactly what happened to me. I got in it for the wrong reasons. Now, here's the funny thing. The funny thing is, I used to think that I was doing it for the love of the music, and maybe it started off that way. But hanging around these certain people, your mindset starts to shift, and you're just surrounded with people that only want it for the monetary reasons. Like, I think that one of the pitfalls, and when I was doing my music, is that I was basically doing the kind of shit that you're doing. I was doing the kind of shit that Action Figure 973 was doing. I'm doing the kind of shit that, Mock is doing, or anything that we, basically these circles that we're talking about.
Yeah.
But at that time, they wanted us to do like, what Young Jock was doing, what Gorilla Zoe was doing, what Diddy was doing, that kind of stuff that was hot at the time, and it never really went anywhere. A lot of these people, what are they doing now? You didn't hear from them. They're just like a flash in the pan.
Yeah.
But that's what was selling at the time, and it didn't mesh with what I wanted, and then it really discouraged me to the point where like I really got to see the ugliness and the politics of the game, because the art form, getting in front of a microphone and performing on stage and making all your fans happy, that's the great part. But everything else, it fucking sucks. You have to go with all the politics and all the haters and all the people telling you what to do or they think they know better than you. It could be very discouraging. And I guess ultimately for me, I really didn't have the love for it as much as I thought I did, because I would have been able to oversee all of that bullshit, and it just didn't happen. Now I know that this is for me because I'm able to oversee all of that nonsense that I had to deal with as an artist back then, and I'm still trucking and I'm still going with this one because I this is my thing. I don't want to stop doing this. So you found your niche, and I'm pretty sure that you've had your trials and tribulations throughout the industry as well. I don't think there's any artists that say that they haven't.
Right. And you know what's funny? I think it was actually Taylor Swift that said this. I saw a clip
Of all people.
I seen a clip on Instagram, and she was saying how people think the industry is like 1, 2, 3. You get signed, you put out a hit single, da da da. And she was saying, and I've heard this from a lot of people. She said, if you don't love it, you're gonna quit, because there's so much other stuff that goes into it that if you don't just love your craft, love making music, love performing, sharing your music with people, there's so much other stuff to discourage you. And I think this goes with anything that's with arts and entertainment, anything that, when you do it on a high level. You could be an actor. There's like you said, there's gonna be people in your ear, yo, do this movie, yo, you should do this,
Right.
yo, you shouldn't do that. And you gotta really know yourself too. There's moments like I know SZA talked about how when she did her album and she had, I think it was the Supermodel song, and sometimes it'll even be reputable people in your ear. Like she said, Pharrell was like, yo, you gotta change this. And she's like, yo, you know what? I listen to a lot of people, and obviously Pharrell, he's a GOAT, but she's like, I'm gonna go with my gut and I'm gonna do what I feel, and it ended up being a huge song for her the way that she intended it. And I love stories like that where you hear of people that, could have been swayed another way, and they go with their gut and it pays off, because it's true. Especially with rap, one thing unfortunately is that I think it coming so, hip hop coming from so close to home, coming from urban areas, coming from people that didn't have much, that now is still so relative that anybody thinks it could just be your barber. Like, yo, you need to do songs like this. You walk out the barber shop, there's another guy, yo, Jason, I like what you're doing, but yo, that shit ain't selling. You got to do shit like this. Like you said,
Yeah.
you at a barbecue, you just minding
Mm-hmm.
your own business, having a good time, and someone's like, man, I don't know. I think you should try this. So if you don't know yourself, if you're not confident in what you want to do, now you could always experiment, try different things in your own way, because I think that's part of being an artist. Nobody wants to do the same old thing every song. But at the same time, you can't listen to everybody else either, because
Mm-hmm.
if you're trying to please everybody else and you're saying, okay, this, I think this lane works, I think this lane works. It's not about just what works. It's about what are you bringing new to the game. Because some people come out, like you said, they do what's trendy.
Yeah.
A year later, that trend's gone. Now what
Mm-hmm.
do? You're not being yourself. But when you're yourself, and then even if it takes you years and years to get on, once you finally get that break and that opportunity, there's nobody else like you. So people have to come to the source. They have to go to you for that music.
Yeah.
So I think it's very important to have confidence in who you are, what you bring to the table. And it's always good to listen to people that you trust, but you can't be swayed and listen to everybody, because especially in hip hop, everybody and their mother is gonna have an opinion. And if you let that take you over, it's gonna fuck you up.
Right. Now, Schoolboy Q, he recently said something also on an interview of, I think it was for a radio station, but basically his name started going through the internet recently because the quote that he said was, music artists are just content creators now. So, especially in this era now that we're living with streaming, sales are dead now. It's all about the streams, who gets the most streams, who gets the most monthly listeners, and it's really, if you think about it, there's maybe 5 or 6 artists that are really dominating it. So, what is your take on the fact that we're now living in an era now of content creation, and artists, music artists such as yourself, are now just considered as content creators?
Yeah, there's a lot to that question, man. I think everything needs balance, so I think you always have to adapt and adopt to what's going on, in your own way. I mean, sometimes, yeah, I think it's easy to get jealous of like the '90s, where you could just go perform at a club, you're nobody, and there's people in there looking for new talent to sign, But at the same time now, it's also a plus in today's age, because we have the power, we have more independent power and exposure, to where if you really put in the work, you could get seen on your own. Do I think artists should be having to worry about that? Maybe not necessarily. I do see, like I said, it needs balance, because if you get too wrapped up in that, it takes away from what you're supposed to be doing, which is the craft and making music and entertaining people and relating to people. But at the same time, if you don't make sure you're posting and getting your stuff out there and having good content, then you might not get seen anyway. So I think it needs a good balance with it. I just think, my advice to artists, or anybody that is doing something, podcasting, acting, modeling, anything, I think people should not let it overwhelm them. I've seen people that have been popping on Instagram, TikTok, and after a while they just disappear. And I know it's because it's a lot to keep up with. There's also a lot that goes into it, self-esteem wise. And one thing I like that Russ says is, he's like, don't worry about the numbers, put your stuff out there. Russ had songs that nobody gave a fuck about, and now he's
Right.
popping in their platinum songs, probably from when he was a kid. And so I think that's good advice. I think you should work towards where you want to be, but not let it take you over to the point where you're fucking depressed, or you're not doing what you love. So you got to have that balance in between everything, I think, because I definitely feel like social media and worrying so much about having content all the time, I do think it can affect people in a negative way too.
Now, when it comes to being an artist, I feel like it's not the greatest thing to keep yourself in a box. I mean, if you want to do that, fine. But I feel like as an artist, there's always evolution that's going on there. So me, I'm doing podcasting. I've kind of did my toe into acting now, and I'm doing all these other things that I'm trying to check out. Now, can you see yourself doing anything else artistic wise other than just being a rapper or being an MC? Like, do you see yourself possibly kind of like just dipping your toe into other things just to try it out and see if you actually are a good fit for it?
Yeah, I definitely could see that. I feel like once I've achieved so much, but I still have a lot of big things to achieve, and I feel like once I get done with some of that and more opportunities arise, I feel like with acting specifically, I feel like I could dip my toes in it,
Mm-hmm.
but I would wonder if I would ever. I don't know if I could ever do it like full time, because I feel like that's a whole nother thing that takes you over, where you got method actors, you got people
Yeah.
that go outside and they're living the movie that they're shooting,
Mm-hmm.
and things like that. I'm kind of glad that I'm an artist, because I'm like, man, the same way an actor might look at music like, yeah, nah, that's too much for me. You know, there's a lot with when it comes to art and entertainment where that could take you over as well, just immersing yourself into a role. But I do see that I do think that I would be able to act a little bit, do some things. I feel like I would want to try doing a stand up, doing stand up comedy
Interesting.
and just seeing how that goes. Sometimes I tell my family like something to happen. I'm like, yeah, you lucky I got into music and not comedy, because I'll put all this shit into my act.
What do you think, Marv? You a funny guy, huh? You a funny guy? Eh? Like I'm a clown? I amuse you? Sorry, keep
And
going.
I feel like people that been around me for long periods of time, they probably seen like some of my funny side come out. But I think people, they know I stand for something. I have, I'm not super serious, but I do talk about things in my music. I do put everyday life and what's going on in my music. So I think sometimes, if I pop out and do a stand up, I think people will be surprised. But there's a lot of different things to it, because even within rap, it's like I co-direct and edit my videos for the most part.
There you go.
There's so much to it. Like I was saying, even down to the outfits, I try to get artistic and creative with it. Like, man, how could I express how I'm feeling inside? I want when people see me, them to get what vibe I'm on. You ain't even you could just see me and know what time it is. So, I co-engineer my records.
Mm-hmm.
Sha Boogs and my dude Lucci, they're two of my guys that I record and mix a lot of my stuff with. Sha Boogs has mixed most of my projects. He mixed Release Party 2, he mixed Release Party 1, he mixed Discovery. But the whole time I'm there like, oh, can we tweak this? Can we do this? Can we do that? So you already see how hands-on I am with my music and everything like that. And so, there's so much just to that I feel like, you never want to limit yourself. If somebody hit me like, yo, I got this part in the movie, it's a small part, but I think you do good, or, like I said, pop out and do a stand-up. I think there's a lot of different things through time that people will see me dabble in and stuff.
Nice. Now, I'm actually trying to go through your... I'm trying to find this video of yours. I can't find it, but the reason I'm trying to look for it... Oh, here it is. I found the video. It's Andre's flute. Yeah. Andre 3000's flute.
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
Well, it's called Andre's flute.
Andre's flute, yeah, but you were referring to Andre 3000.
Exactly.
So I'm looking at the video, and I'm thinking, like... How the hell did he get this so polished? Like, this looks actually real professional and everything. I don't know if you do it personally, if you got a team that's working for you, but I'm just looking at this stuff and this shit looks like real authentic, like how a music video should look like.
Yeah,
So that goes to show how you are kind of like on top of everything, not just with your music as far as like songwriting and everything and producing, but every other aspect of your craft. And I truly believe in that thing. Like, if you want shit done, you got to get it done yourself. So you doing it on your own and being very hands on, and you kind of getting a glimpse of how much of a visual artist you are, not just a poet in the sense, So
Yeah.
I think that I'm just looking at the visuals, and I think that wow, this looks really fucking good.
Yeah, I appreciate you, and I don't got no team. It's just me, really.
Yeah.
I mean, in a sense, on a creative and spiritual level, everybody I work with in some way is a part of my team. We collabing right now.
Yeah.
I've collabed with Marv. Like,
Right.
Marv letting me on the event to perform was a collaboration. We all in sync with each other. So when I hire a director, a videographer, I'm already pleased with his work. But I already know, and I tell people from jump, like you said, I'm real hands-on with my stuff, so I know the chances are I'm probably gonna want some scenes changed around, and you know, I'll either sometimes I'll send the videographer like what I want, but a lot of times I'll link up with him and I'll be like, okay, you set the perfect platform, now let's just polish it. I'm gonna tell you the scenes I want to change, and we will put in like new scenes and stuff like that. So that's what I did with Andre's Flute. That's what I did with Desensitized, KOJ. All my videos, I'll sit with the videographer. Or like I said, if they cool with it, if they cool with just taking a list, but I've kind of learned it's better and easier to meet up and go through everything. But I'll write down like the specific scenes. And this is me going off my intuition. I feel like sometimes artists could think too much and get in their head. It's better to just go with your gut. It's better to be like, okay, this whole first minute is perfect, but this one scene, I feel like we could find something better. And so it means a lot to me for you to say like those videos are so polished. Even a song like Andre's Flute, which is in technically kind of like a freestyle because it's not my song. I'm rhyming over something from
Yeah,
Andre
it's a different
3000.
Yeah, it's an old beat.
Yeah, it's from his new album actually, the Flute album he put out, New Blue Sun. And I was like, man, you know what? When the album came out, I listened to the whole album and I had to meditate because I'm like, you can't really bump this. It's not. It's no drums. It's more like something to meditate to, do something like that. And I'm heavy into meditation, so I start meditating and just closing my eyes and hearing the whole thing. And I get to the last song, which mentions the dungeon, which is obviously an ode to the Dungeon family,
Right.
where Andre's crew that he came up with, and the song is like 14 minutes, so I start getting a little restless at this point because I heard the whole album. I meditated the whole album. I don't know how long it is exactly, but I'm like, yo, you know what? I know Andre said, disclaimer, there's no bars, just music. I'm going to put some bars to this shit.
Nice.
Which is funny because around the same time, I heard Lupe did I think he rhymed on the whole album.
Oh, wow. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, so I had this, great minds think alike. I had this idea before I knew that Lupe was going to do it. But I'm like, yo, man, and I'm not going to rap too long because this is me rhyming over essentially flute music. I don't want to lose people.
Yeah,
I do think it even went over some people's heads because it's not a typical beat.
Right.
But I was like, yo, this is my chance to really come real. I mean, I'm poetic anyway, but I really wanted to come poetic and do something different. And there's a lot of people, like shout out to Lori Love. She really loved the song. There's a lot of people that really took in what I was saying, even the part at the end that I repeat where I say, God wanted to test to see if I'm still secure. I said, sure. And you hear me break down in the song, I'm talking about in the beginning the shorty that I'm out with. And I'm saying it very poetic, but the shorty is, she's sauce. We at the store and I'm like, damn, she's stumbling in the heels and everything, and I'm like, I started thinking like, this is cool, but like, what do I really want? A lot of these girls are cool, but, for a long-term relationship, I need more than looks. I need more than somebody that's just cool to chill with. That's why you hear me say I want somebody warm, someone that can apologize, not apologize, toxic with secrets all inside. We got to strategize. And you hear me break down this thing where I'm talking to women, but you could put it towards anybody where I'm like, yo, like, let's embrace the soft life,
Yeah.
Just like me as a man, no woman want me when I'm, not dealing with my issues and I'm putting them off. And you hear me kind of talking in that way towards women in my love life where I'm like, yo, like, it's time for us all to heal. We gonna be better together if we all heal, deal with our issues, learn how to communicate with each other. And also, like I said with that line, is like, okay, am I gonna go back to some of those unhealed moments of being insecure? Like, nah, God's testing me. All right, I see you, God. I'm here. I'm secure. I'm confident, and I know more. I'm more mature with what I want and stuff like that. So that's what a lot of went into that song, Andre's Flute.
That's what's up, man. Now you got The Jersey Shore EP already out with Knowledge.
Yeah.
You got the Release Party 1 and 2. What other projects are you working on right now that's hopefully coming soon?
Actually, I'm working on what's probably going to be the final installment of Release Party, which
Nice.
is Release Party 3. I have a lot of songs done. I got a big Jersey record that I feel like probably took me to this point in my life to make. When I first came out, before I really started diving into like social issues and things in my life, I mean, I probably always rapped about my life, but when I first started, I just wanted to be known as nice and put Jersey on. You know,
Nice.
there's a lot of people before me, but I wanted to do it for my generation. And so I think some of those elements from when I was young and just starting out kind of came back to where, you know, we sampled Can't Forget New Jersey from Queen Latifah from Jersey Drive. And I always wanted to do something with that. So Shy Boogs and Says Beats produced that record. A lot of people might know them from working with Fetty Wap.
I know Shaw Bugs.
Yeah, so they killed the beat, and I told myself, all right, I know when I was younger, I wanted to shout out every classic Jersey artist, every city.
Yeah, like Bon Jovi, Springsteen, all them. Yeah.
Everybody,
Redman,
Whitney
Lauryn Hill.
Houston, Lauryn Hill, one of my favorites, Fugees as well, Wyclef. So I was like, yo, don't, again, and this is my advice for artists, and people in general, don't think too much, let it flow. And I told myself, I don't want to force myself to shout out every city, every artist. I just want to, whatever comes out, I want it to be natural. So that's what I did. I just let the pen, you know, take it, or I probably wrote it in my phone, so the thumb. But I let the words just take its course. I didn't want to like think too much about it. I just wanted it to just happen. I got a song called Place to Go, which I've been performing a lot. People might have seen me post that on my Instagram and wonder what song that is. But without getting into too much, I got Release Party 3 on the way. And I'm also working on a project with Fatboy Sharif.
Nice.
Which this is probably an exclusive as well.
Oh.
Because me and Fatboy Sharif, he's doing this thing right now. A lot of people got hip to him over the last couple years. He has a lot of, you know, albums that's doing well. And we had so many songs through the years that never came out. And again, you know, me getting into my executive producer bag, I told him, I'm like, yo, Reef, I got a bunch of songs on this track list that I put together that we have together that never came out. And a lot of them was probably songs that I asked him to get on. One song was produced by Roper Williams that was supposed to be for Roper's project, who's one of Fatboy's main producers. He produced Gandhi Loves Children, and they got an EP together, Planet Unfaithful. And then he told us, like, yo, y'all could just keep the track. I want y'all to have it and y'all to use it. And it was such a good song that I put it with the other songs, and I added a couple other songs that I told Reef, like, yo, just write to these couple songs and we got a project right here. So we're in the process of getting all that together right now. Some things need to be re-recorded, but that's another project that I got in the works right now.
Nice, nice. All right. So we're about to close out this episode a little bit, but I appreciate you coming through, man, telling me your story and sharing your music and so on and so forth. So, but yeah, definitely on the lookout for the Release Party 3. I'm looking forward to that. I'm a fan of Release Party 1 and 2, and I do like the Jersey Shore EP that you did with Knowledge, so congratulations on that. And yeah, so as soon as we get out of here, we have one more segment that we like to do here. It's called This or That. So basically, I'll be giving you multiple choice questions, and I kind of tailored around the guest, so this is tailored around you, and also some other, general ones that we have. So just try to do the best you can. Don't try to, I tell everybody, don't try to go, try to pick an easy way out of everything. It has to be either one or, this or that, all right? So you ready?
Gotcha.
You ready, Marv? All right. All right, so you, Mr. Cause, for this or that, playlist or podcast?
I guess I gotta go with playlists.
Okay, nothing wrong with it. This is not
part of me wanted to say podcast. My intuition's telling me podcast, but my brain is like playlist. Cause
yeah, it's all good, man. It's not the SATs.
It's all music shit. So a good playlist. Of course, that's always a good thing. Right.
Taylor ham or pork roll?
Taylor ham.
Okay, thank
North
you so much.
New Juke?
Yeah, slides or Crocs?
Huh. I think I'm gonna go with slides.
All right. Dogs or cats?
Dogs all day.
Instagram or TikTok?
I love IG, so
Okay. Beach or pool?
I'm gonna go with beach.
All right. McDonald's or Taco Bell?
I'll go with Mickey D's.
All right. Stankonia or Quemini?
Oh shit. I love Stankonia. I think it's so underrated, but Aquemini is like one of them ones. But you know what? Right now, even though I was listening to Aquemini a lot recently, especially Liberation with Big Rube and Erykah Badu and CeeLo.
Right.
But right now in this moment, I'm gonna go with Stankonia because I don't think it gets the love it deserves.
Okay. Are you glass half empty or glass half full?
Half full all day.
All right. Would you rather be embarrassed or be afraid?
Now that's a good question right there. I guess I'd rather be embarrassed.
All right. Would you rather be too hot or be too cold?
Damn, two things I don't like. I guess I'd rather be too cold because you could always put on more clothes. If it's too hot, you might just be fucked.
Yeah, I'm the exact same way, man. Reading or writing?
I love both, but if I gotta pick one, I'm gonna go with writing because that's what I do. So,
book smart or street smart?
Need a little bit of both, but if I gotta pick, especially depending what type of environment you in, I might go with street smarts because if you're in an environment where you need that and you ain't got it, then they gonna eat you alive.
DJ Premier or Pete Rock?
I'm gonna go with Premier. Shout out to Pete Rock. He doing the album right now with Common, another guy that inspired me.
That's kind of like a shameless plug for everybody to know. Common and Pete Rock coming out soon, real quick.
Yeah, I love Common, but yeah, I'm gonna go with Premier.
All right. Ice water or room temperature?
I'll go with ice water.
All right. Nikes or Adidas?
Nikes.
All right. Window seat or aisle seat?
Window seat.
Batman or Superman?
Batman.
Would to give or to receive?
I'll say give because when you give, the universe will give back to you anyway. So you get both.
Drop a bomb on that, Mom. Introvert or extrovert?
I grew up an introvert, but I'm gonna go with extrovert. It's a lot better.
All right. And then finally, teamwork or solo project?
Teamwork. You can't get so far. You could only get but so far just by yourself. You definitely got to work with other people to really build something.
I love it. All right, man. That is going to do it for this or that. And ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for this episode of First Class, Second Place. Thank you so much to my guests, the cause for coming through. Anybody want to give a shout out to before we close out?
Man, shout out to all my people in New Jupiter. Shout out to Fatboy Sharif. Shout out to my dude Jason for having me on. Shout out Bravery Studios. And shout out to everybody that seen me perform here, jumping on chairs and tables and wilding out.
And where could they find you on social media and all your music?
You could follow me at ComKingCausey on IG, Twitter, TikTok. That's at ComKingCausey. You already know.
All right, man. Well, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate you coming through. I'm looking forward to more projects in the future. And who knows, maybe I'll actually get to see a little bit of acting in the future. We'll see, you know. All right. And ladies and gentlemen, and ladies and gentlemen, you can find me at I'm Jason Enrique on all social media platforms. Don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube at First Class Second Place. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week. This has been the First Class Second Place podcast. We out.